We're joined by Karina Preston today, guys. Karina Preston is a swim coach and our swimming subject matter expert. KP, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For those people who haven't had the fortune of working with you or who maybe don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, background as an athlete, and of course as a coach.
Okay. Well, I'm a high performance swimming coach, so I've worked my way up to that level over quite a few years. I'm currently the head coach at Kwinana Swimming Club, which is a very small club down in Kwinana. Some great kids down there, quite a lot of emerging talent coming through. A very much a club that hasn't been looked after, so it's really good to be in there and relax a little bit because it's a lot slower than what I'm used to. Because previously I've worked on Australian teams and spent a lot of time at the Institute of Sport in Canberra and travelling the world. So to be down in Kwinana now is quite nice.
Nice change for you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a little bit slower, which is kind of nice after being at that really top level. As an athlete, I grew up a gymnast and moved into swimming when I was a little older, just for health reasons more than anything, and found that the passion for swimming was very much there. And now as an adult, I still swim, and I've found myself come full circle as well back to the gymnastics as
Mm.
well through CrossFit. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Excellent, good stuff. Now, obviously, your specialization is in swimming, but you have had some exposure to some CrossFit stuff, and obviously a lot of gymnastics as a kid, as you were saying.
Yep.
How do you think swimming in particular integrates into CrossFit?
Um, Not anywhere near as much as what I'd like it
Mm,
to. um, I think it's a very good tool for CrossFitters to use to recover, to work on their mobility,
mm,
to work on their cardiovascular, and to work on just using swimming as a different medium, I guess. I mean, CrossFitters spend a lot of time in the gym,
mm,
lifting weights and doing a lot of gymnastics moves. They're on the ground a lot, and then to get that sore, tired body into the water is a good way to just relax and focus on a different movement altogether, because swimming is very different to anything that you ever do on land.
mm. So, I guess my question is, what would be the biggest thing that there's someone who follows a CrossFit sort of methodology? What would be the biggest thing they would neglect? Now, obviously, the easy answer here is swimming, but can you go any deeper than this? What is it that CrossFitters currently aren't doing, which they could do and is going to make a big difference to them?
I think generally, and it's not just CrossFitters, but people in general tend to avoid things that they don't like.
Mm,
And sometimes they represent as a weakness, but things that people don't like can also be represented as a strength. I've come across athletes that are very good at something, but they don't like it, so then they don't do it.
mm,
In terms of swimming, I mean, a lot of CrossFitters, I think, are realizing that swimming is becoming more and more a part of the sport, and that avoiding it too much longer is going to be quite detrimental
mm,
to their role as an athlete in the sport. But a lot of CrossFitters I've found don't know where to start with swimming, so they continually avoid it, or they get in and they just swim laps.
yeah.
And there's very little value in just getting in and swimming lap after lap after lap, particularly if their technique is poor, or they don't have a strong swimming background, and they just don't know what they're doing.
Mm. It's obvious that doing more swimming is going to improve the swimming of an athlete, and that's whether they have specialist coaching or they're just sort of jumping in and swimming laps, as you say. But aside from the benefits of swimming making CrossFitters better swimmers, how is spending more time in the pool going to improve the stuff that they're doing outside the pool as well? I mean, you've talked about the improvements in mobility and stuff. How else do you see this applying to the rest of their training or their ability to compete?
I guess if people are doing nothing, like no swimming at all,
Mm,
getting into the pool once a week is going to be a massive benefit for them.
yep.
And I think it's the mental deload that swimming represents for people.
Yeah.
So not even if they're chasing that mobility or chasing the cardiovascular aspect that swimming gives you, it's just that mental break from the gym. Being surrounded by water, being supported, using it as a bit of rehab maybe. I think that's a key point that the CrossFitters that I've spoken to over the years have missed about swimming. They think that it's just another thing that they have to work at.
Another
And that doesn't have
skill.
to be the case.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the case.
Yeah.
They can just get into the water and not even swim. They can just walk or float or get on a kickboard and kick their legs. Just getting into the water is the first stage that they need to get over.
Yeah. Do you think there's an element of cardiovascular, cardiorespiratory fitness that a swimmer has that a CrossFitter maybe doesn't develop?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's something
it's very different.
something I've noticed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. I don't know if there's an answer to that. I think possibly if you spoke to somebody more in that area, and I don't mean a swimming coach. I'm a coach. I'm not a physiologist or anything. And this might be something that you may actually know more of than me. But swimming is a whole body movement, whereas a lot of movements in CrossFit focus in on a section of muscles or a section of the body. You cannot hide in the water. You have to use all muscles in the body. And I think that's why a lot of people, when they first start swimming, they get out of the pool and they say, oh, I'm so sore all over. And that's possibly why it is such a cardiovascular movement, because they're using every single muscle.
Yeah, it's definitely
including the brain.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's definitely something I've noticed is that there's a very different type of fitness that comes from people who swim a lot, or people who've got a swimming background. You know, people who were swimming years ago, and they just retain. I know there's some research talking about increases in lung volume, and that anything in the water or swimming is the only sport that can actually increase the size of your lungs as opposed to the efficiency. So I don't know if there's something there. In terms of programming, because you've said that even if they're just getting in the pool once a week, it's going to be a really big thing.
Absolutely.
I think some people may listen to this and go, okay, so I need to do all my regular programming. So I need to do my normal training, the extra strength work I'm doing, the extra accessory work I'm doing, and then a bit of gymnastic stuff. And now I need to add swimming on top of that as well. And a lot of athletes, in particular CrossFitters, have this attitude or this approach that more is better. And that here's your program, swimming is something else on top, gymnastics is on top. How do you think a CrossFitter could implement more swimming into their training without saying, all right, it means an extra hour a week, an extra 2 hours a week? How can we be more efficient in including this?
I want to go back to what you said just before. Swimming has always been part of CrossFit. It's just been a neglected part of CrossFit. Of course,
yeah.
So when you say people think that they need to add it in, it's actually already, it's always been there.
Yeah.
It's just that people have failed to do it.
Yeah, it's just like someone who's got squats as a weakness and they neglect their squats. It's not that it's not part of the training, it's just that it's part of the training that they're not doing. Okay.
Yeah, so I think look, let's fast forward to summer, because this answers the question really easily.
Yeah.
And most of us who live in Perth love to go to the beach in summer. So this is a perfect opportunity to use your time at the beach as a time to get into the water. You would go down to the beach for an hour or so, maybe on the weekend, maybe after work. This is when you can just get in and have a little bit of a swim. It doesn't need to be a structured, find a pool, find a lane, find a program, be in there for an hour, bang out, whatever. It just doesn't need to be that hard. If you want to make that a little bit more structured and you do want to find a pool and have a program, 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops is still going to give you the improvements that you're chasing once a week.
Yeah. And And that's good because it's showing people that they don't have to become full-time swimmers, because
No,
obviously swimmers have a reputation for training long hours, spending
sure.
a lot of time in the pool, like a lot of
Yeah,
mental strength. 'Cause it's a pretty solitary sport as well. So
yeah.
is there a lesson that you think, obviously you have been around swimmers your whole life at all different levels, is there a lesson that a CrossFitter could learn from swimmers, be it physical or mental, but is there something that swimmers as a general population, is there something that they're doing that CrossFitters aren't, that we could learn from them?
Ooh,
The
I don't
mental
know.
toughness, do you think?
Yeah, but you get that in gymnastics as well. I don't think it's something that you can say anybody can gain,
Mm,
because I think it's a personality thing.
okay.
Mental tough, you can have a swimmer who's very, very talented, but very not tough
Yeah.
at all. They just have the talent on their side. But you've got, and you'll find this in CrossFit as well, that you can have the person who is very mentally tough, who trains really well, but doesn't have that talent on their side.
Mm,
And I think for most coaches, we would prefer to coach that underdog, that person that's willing to work hard and put in the effort, even if it is only one time a week for 20 minutes,
yeah.
and not have that talent, than to go with the person that has the talent. They're hard work, the
Yeah.
ones that don't want to work.
Yeah. Cool. Again, in terms of implementing this into their training,
Yeah,
you've said that even 15, 20 minutes a week is going to have a huge impact.
sure.
If you were talking to CrossFitters who are probably watching or listening to this now, and they said, "Yep, I want to include some of this. You've convinced me that swimming is important for me." Tell me exactly what it would look like. So what's the absolute minimum effective dose? What's the smallest thing that someone could do, and they can start this next week to start the ball rolling with getting some swimming happening? What's something that's so easy it's almost ridiculous for them to do?
So yeah, so you just need to start. Just get in the water and see how you feel. Maybe grab a friend who's a swimmer,
Hmm.
or speak to the coach. Most coaches who stand on deck are happy to speak to people about their swimming for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not going to give you an hour of their time, but look at your body position, look at how you move through the water, and find out ways to be efficient in the water. Just like we chase efficiency in our lifting
Yeah.
and in our gymnastics movements,
Yeah. And I
you have to
think
find that.
Yeah, I think that's key, because a lot of people, they think of things like swimming and running as something that you go and do irrespective of technique, and then they look
Yeah,
at things like Olympic weightlifting, and they practice their technique, they do
correct.
stuff with an empty bar. So they think of swimming and running as ways of moving, as forms of
Yeah,
ambulation, of how to get from A to B, and they think
yeah,
of Olympic lifting as a skill. But do you think
yeah.
people are neglecting swimming as a skill?
I think it's really dangerous to look at it that way, because you get someone who doesn't move well in the water,
Mm,
just like you have someone who doesn't move well when they lift a bar, and you're asking for an injury.
yeah,
An injury in swimming is most often shoulders, and
overuse.
you need your shoulders for
Yeah,
CrossFit.
yeah,
So if people are wanting to start down the path of that 20 minutes a week of swimming, they need to be doing it right.
yeah,
And it's not difficult to find somebody who can help them out. There's
yeah,
a lot of swimming coaches out there who are willing to help.
yeah. Because I mean, I'd imagine there would be hundreds and thousands of people who are CrossFitters who can swim 100 meters in under 90 seconds. So there'll be heaps of
Yep,
people like that. But I think the difference is not the speed, it's how they feel at the end of that 100 meters. And
exactly.
it can be very, very different. You can have someone who's just thrashing their way down the pool and they'll still swim at sub 90 seconds. Someone who's got some efficiency, and they'll get out and then they'll be able to hit the thrusters or the running or the cycling or whatever's coming next.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So it's a little bit like, I guess, a triathlete. They
Mm,
move from that swim into the bike, into the run, and they don't want to tank themselves in the swim, because they
yeah,
got to spend 100 k's on the bike,
yeah,
and then 40 k's in the run. It's everything. Movement is about efficiency,
yeah,
so that's what we need to chase.
yeah, great. Um, Now, I know over the last few years in the CrossFit Games that swimming has become a bigger part of it. It's become a
Yep.
bigger part of the games, and they're starting to test it. But what I'm interested to know is, are they on the right track with how they're testing this? How would you design a swimming event if it's not already covered? How would you design a swimming event for the CrossFit Games to test these people who are the fittest on earth? If you were writing that event, what would it look like?
Can we just go back a bit? Because I think they're doing it backwards.
Yeah.
They've introduced swimming at the highest level
Mm.
rather than at the lowest level of
Yeah.
the sport.
Yeah.
So part A of answering your question is we need to get swimming of some form into local competition
Yeah.
and then into regional competition and then into the CrossFit Games. So from my point of view, they've done it a little bit backwards.
Okay.
Having said that, what they've presented to the athletes at the CrossFit Games has been really good in my eyes. We've had a pool event and we've had an ocean event.
Mm.
What we haven't had, though, is a sprint event. So it would be really cool to see a drop dead 50-meter freestyle
Yeah,
or
cool.
something like that.
I like
That
it.
would be exciting because
Yeah.
that would show efficiency and power in the pool.
Yeah, I like it.
Whereas previously in the pool, we've seen, I think it was
Swimming and muscle
it
ups,
was a
freestyle
50-meter
muscle ups.
swim, but then into the muscle ups, and then
Yeah.
another 50-meter swim, and then more muscle ups. So it was continuous. It was very much an endurance event.
Yeah.
And then we've also seen the ocean swims have also been endurance events, followed by what they've done on the beach.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen any sprint work.
Yeah. You see, I think a lot of the time what they introduce in the CrossFit Games, they hope will sort of then filter down through the community. And
Yeah.
if that's something like walking handstands, then it's easy to filter down because you can do that pretty much anywhere. But
Yeah.
it's harder to have access to a pool, and you can't just
Sure.
jump in and do it. So how do you think we fix that? Or is this how we do it, by talking about it and by educating people on what they should be doing?
Yeah, I think it's somehow or other we just have to get over the cost of the lane hire or the pool hire. It's part of it. And everybody has to pay for pool space.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
it's not something that's avoidable. If we want swimming in CrossFit to be better, then the money has to be found, and the event organisers need to invest in that aspect of the sport.
Yeah. I'm programming for an event that's coming up in September. This is 2018, if people are watching or listening to this later. And there is a swimming event that will be in there, and there are some different elements in there as well. So I'm not gonna give any teasers, but keep your eyes open for that, yeah, because there'll be some fun stuff there.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on, anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to cover, that you'd like to mention?
I guess I want to reinforce to people more than anything that swimming is never as hard as what people make out in their mind. And this is evident on a weekly basis for me because I work with adults as well who are fearful of the water, or they haven't swum since they were a kid, or they haven't really learned to swim, and then they get in and they just start. Like I said, just get in and start.
Yeah.
And then we realise that we enjoy the water. There's not many people that don't enjoy being in the water and moving through the water. And as with any movement, the better that you get at that movement and the more improvements and PBs that you have in that movement, the more you're likely to do it.
Yeah, because it reinforces it.
Yeah, and it really doesn't need to be any more than 20 minutes a week. Just get in and swim and find someone to help you.
Yeah, I think sometimes the mistake people make when they're doing something that's a bit out of their comfort zone like this, or if they're trying to break a habit or form a new habit, they think you have to be motivated to start, and that you have to have motivation then action. But sometimes, as you say, start. If you start with the action, you'll start to feel better about yourself, and your improvements will motivate you, and then all your motivation is driven by action instead of action being driven by motivation.
Yeah, and then it becomes a habit, and you know that at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning is your 20 minutes in the pool.
It's just what you do. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, In September, we're lucky enough to have you as our subject matter expert swim coach for the athlete camp that we're running.
Yeah.
What can people expect? How a CrossFit is going to benefit from coming to this? What are they going to take away from the workshop with you?
I'm going to teach people how to move in the water efficiently.
Yeah,
because as we discussed, any movement has to be efficient. Yeah. So I have 1 hour with the swimmers in the water. It's not a training session as such. They're not going to walk away from this heavy in the body, but they're going to be heavy in the mind, because I'm going to throw it as much at them as possible about how to get moving efficiently in the water, and really easy techniques that anybody can do. You don't need to be, if you can swim 1 lap of a pool, 25 meters, I can show you how to be efficient in that 1 hour.
That's excellent. That's perfect. I'm really looking forward to that. And again, it's such a low hanging fruit for people, and things that are working from a low level already. It doesn't take much to get them better. If someone's got a major strength, it's hard to improve that by a couple of percent. But I mean, in the space of an hour, there's going to be huge improvements, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people are going to come into the swim session anxious, and they're going to walk away on cloud 9, because they're gonna. It's almost going to be like, well, gosh, that was easy. They're going to realise how easy it is to improve so much in such a small amount of time. I
love it. I can't wait. It's going to be good. All right. Before I say goodbye to you, what's the best way for people to connect with you if they have questions? Email, social media, where can we send people?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, just Karina Preston. I'm on Instagram. I have an email address, a phone number. It's not, if you Google my name, it'll come up.
Okay, cool.
I've got a page of myself there. Okay. So I'm not hard to find.
All right, excellent stuff. Easy done. Thank you so much for your time today, KP.
My pleasure.
It's such an easy area for people to be able to access, and I really like that you've given us some easy applicable tools that we can do.
Sure.
Great. Thank you, Karina.
Okay.
See ya.